Rita had barely stepped through the restaurant door when her grandmother looked up, smiled with unmistakable pride, and said, "There she is! Tell me, sweetheart, how are you liking the truck I bought you?" Rita stopped so suddenly that the conversations around the table faded into silence. "The truck?" she asked. Her grandmother laughed softly, as if Rita were teasing her. "Yes, the pickup. You must have driven it here." Rita looked from her grandmother to her parents, then toward the parking lot where her older brother's shiny pickup sat gleaming through the restaurant window. "I came on the city bus." The smile disappeared from her grandmother's face. Her father leaned forward so quickly that his chair scraped against the floor. "Mom," he interrupted with a forced laugh, "Rita's joking." "I'm not," Rita replied quietly. "I don't have a truck." No one moved. Her brother suddenly found the tablecloth fascinating. Her grandmother slowly folded her hands together. Then, without taking her eyes off Rita, she asked one question that made the entire room hold its breath. "Then, whose truck is parked outside?" 3 hours earlier, Rita had been standing shoulder to shoulder with strangers at the downtown bus stop before sunrise, pulling her jacket tighter as cold rain soaked through the crowd. Another bus had been delayed. Again. She checked the time on her phone, already calculating how late she'd be if the connection downtown was missed. Around her, commuters sighed in frustration while pickup trucks and SUVs splashed through puddles on their way toward the highway. Her phone buzzed. Family group chat. "Mom, asterisk don't be late for Grandma's birthday lunch." Rita typed a quick reply. "I'll come straight from work." She slipped the phone back into her pocket before the bus finally arrived. By the time she reached the restaurant that afternoon, she was nearly 20 minutes late after another breakdown forced everyone to transfer buses halfway across town. As she hurried toward the entrance, she noticed an almost new pickup parked proudly near the front doors. Her brother, Samuel, leaned against it with the keys spinning around one finger. "Nice, isn't it?" he said as she walked past. "It is," Rita answered. "I worked hard for it." Their father clapped Samuel on the shoulder. "That's what happens when people make smart decisions." Their mother smiled in Rita's direction. "Maybe someday you won't have to depend on buses." Rita had heard versions of that comment for years. She simply smiled politely and walked inside. Arguing never changed anything. Her grandmother, Evelyn Okoro, stood as soon as she saw Rita. "There you are," she said warmly, pulling her into a hug. "I've missed you." For a brief moment, Rita forgot about the rain, the crowded buses, and the remarks outside. Then everyone sat down. Grandma beamed with quiet satisfaction and asked the question that shattered the afternoon. "So, how are you liking the truck I bought you?" Rita answered honestly. "What truck?" The laughter around the table died instantly. Her father opened his mouth first. "Mom, she's confused." But Grandma wasn't looking at him anymore. She was studying Rita's face carefully. "Rita," she asked softly, "you've really never seen it." Rita slowly shook her head. "I don't know what you're talking about." Grandma's expression changed completely. She turned her head toward the restaurant windows, where Samuel's pickup was still visible outside. Then she looked directly at Rita's parents. "Then whose truck?" she asked in a calm voice that suddenly made everyone uneasy. "Is parked outside." No one answered. For several long seconds, the only sound in the private dining room was the faint clatter of dishes from the restaurant kitchen. Daniel finally cleared his throat. "Mom, I think there's been a misunderstanding." Grandma Evelyn didn't even glance at him. Her attention remained fixed on Rita. "Sweetheart," she said gently, "come with me for a moment." She stood and walked toward the quiet hallway leading to the restaurant lobby. Rita followed, confused more than anything else. As soon as they were alone, Grandma lowered her voice. "Tell me honestly, are you trying to protect someone?" Rita frowned. "I don't understand." "The truck. I've never had one. Grandma searched her granddaughter's face for any sign of hesitation. Instead, she saw genuine confusion. "When did you stop driving it?" Grandma asked. "I've never driven it." Grandma blinked. "I picked the color myself." Rita stared at her. "The deep blue paint." Silence. The four-door cab. Another silence. The towing package. Grandma's voice slowed. "The heated seats, because I knew your morning commute was miserable." Rita's stomach tightened. Those weren't random details. No one could invent them so naturally. "You really bought a truck," Rita whispered. Grandma nodded once. "I wanted your trips to work to be easier." Rita felt her chest grow heavy. "Grandma, I've been taking 2 buses every morning for almost a year." Grandma's eyes widened. "Every single day?" "Yes." "In the rain?" "Yes." "In the dark before sunrise?" Rita nodded again. Grandma looked away for a moment, pressing her lips together as though trying to make sense of something that suddenly no longer fit. "Why didn't you tell me?" "I thought," Rita hesitated. "What?" "I thought you never wanted to help." Grandma looked genuinely hurt. "I've never wanted you to struggle like that." The words landed harder than Rita expected. For years, she'd convinced herself that asking for help would only make people disappointed in her. Now she was discovering that someone had quietly tried to make her life easier. Someone she trusted. Grandma reached for Rita's hand. "When was the last time you came to visit me?" Rita thought for a second. "Almost a year." "Why?" "Dad always said you were resting." Grandma frowned. "I wasn't." Rita looked up. "He said you didn't want visitors because your health wasn't good." "I've been asking why you never came." Another piece slid into place. "And every time I tried calling you," Rita said slowly, "Mom told me you were asleep." Grandma stared at her. "I answered every phone call I received." The hallway suddenly felt much colder. Rita replayed the past year in her mind. Every conversation about transportation had ended the same way. Her father would shrug. "Everyone starts somewhere." Her mother would say, "You'll appreciate a vehicle more if you earn one yourself." Even stranger. Whenever coworkers complimented Samuel's pickup at family gatherings, he always changed the subject almost immediately. At the time, Rita thought he simply disliked attention. Now those moments looked very different. Grandma took a slow breath. "I want to see that truck." Rita nodded. "So do I." When they returned to the dining room, everyone looked up nervously. Daniel forced another smile. Everything sorted out. Grandma remained standing. "We're going outside after lunch." Grace looked startled. "Outside?" "Yes." "Why?" "I'd like to take a closer look at the truck." Daniel shook his head almost immediately. "Mom, there's really no need." Samuel shifted uneasily in his chair. It's just a truck." Grandma calmly pulled out her chair but didn't sit down. "No." Her voice remained quiet. "I think it's finally time I looked at it myself." By the time lunch ended, no one was talking about dessert. Instead, the entire family drifted into the parking lot behind Grandma Evelyn, drawn by curiosity more than anything else. Several aunts and uncles exchanged confused glances. "What exactly is going on?" one of them whispered. "I don't know," another replied, "but something isn't right." Samuel stood beside the pickup, the keys still in his hand. For the first time since he'd bought it, he didn't look proud to own it. Grandma stopped a few feet from the driver's door. "So," she said calmly, "this is the truck." Samuel swallowed. "Yes." She walked around it slowly, running her fingertips along the blue paint. "The color is exactly what I chose." No one interrupted her. She paused beside the rear bumper. "I never ordered these chrome step rails." Samuel looked toward his father before answering. I added those later. Grandma nodded, but said nothing. She continued around the truck, studying every detail with surprising precision. Then she stopped beside the driver's door. When did you receive it? Samuel answered almost immediately. Last summer. Grandma looked at him. What day? He hesitated. I don't remember exactly. Daniel stepped in. It doesn't matter what day. Grandma turned toward him. It matters to me. Samuel shifted his weight. I think sometime in June. Grandma remained silent for a moment. I paid the dealership on June 14th. Samuel's face lost color. Daniel quickly spoke again. We're getting distracted. No, Grandma replied evenly. I think we're finally getting focused. She extended her hand. The registration papers, please. The parking lot fell completely silent. Grace forced a smile. Mom, why would you need those? Because I'm asking for them. Daniel didn't move. Grandma repeated herself. The registration. After several uncomfortable seconds, Daniel reached into the glove compartment and handed over the folder. Grandma opened it carefully. She scanned the first page. Then the second. Her expression hardened. She looked directly at Daniel. This registration was completed the same week I transferred the purchase funds. Daniel folded his arms. Yes. I never authorized transferring ownership. We made a family decision. A family decision. He nodded confidently. Samuel needed reliable transportation more. Rita felt like the ground had shifted beneath her. She stared at her father. There really was a truck. He didn't answer. Her mother finally spoke. You were doing fine on the buses. Rita looked at her in disbelief. You knew. Grace sighed. It just made more sense this way. One of Rita's uncles stepped forward. Wait, are you saying Evelyn bought this for Rita? Another relative frowned. And you gave it to Samuel instead. Daniel raised both hands. Everyone needs to calm down. We simply reassign the gift. You don't reassign someone else's gift, another aunt replied sharply. The murmurs spread through the family. People began comparing dates, questioning explanations, looking back and forth between Rita and Samuel. Samuel lowered his eyes. Grandma slowly closed the registration folder. I never gave anyone permission to change ownership. Daniel tried one last time. Mom, this isn't worth upsetting the whole family. Grandma looked him straight in the eye. The whole family was upset the moment you decided my wishes didn't matter. She took her phone from her purse. Without another word, she searched for a number. Daniel stepped forward. Who are you calling? My attorney. Grace's eyes widened. Mom. Grandma pressed the call button. When the call connected, her voice remained calm. Good afternoon. Would you please bring me the complete purchase file for Rita's truck? She listened briefly before answering. Yes. Her eyes never left Daniel. I'm at the restaurant. She ended the call and slipped the phone back into her purse. My attorney is bringing every purchase document. The confidence drained from Daniel's face. For the first time all afternoon. No one tried to argue. The drive back to Grandma Evelyn's house was unusually quiet. Instead of the cheerful conversations that usually followed her birthday lunches, everyone arrived in separate cars without speaking. Inside the living room, no one took their usual seats. Daniel stood near the fireplace with his arms folded. Grace paced slowly between the windows. Samuel remained by the front door, turning his truck keys over and over in his hand. Rita sat beside Grandma, still trying to process everything she'd learned. The truck she'd admired from a distance for months. The truck she'd assumed Samuel had purchased himself. Had been meant for her all along. 20 minutes later, A black sedan pulled into the driveway. Grandma looked toward the window. "He's here." A gray-haired attorney stepped inside carrying a thick leather portfolio. "Good afternoon, Evelyn. Thank you for coming so quickly." He greeted the family politely before placing the portfolio on the dining table. "You asked for the complete file." "I did." He opened the case and removed several neatly organized folders. The purchase agreement. Another folder. The dealership correspondence. A third. Insurance documentation. Then one final envelope. And the beneficiary designation. Daniel's expression tightened. The attorney slid the purchase agreement across the table toward Grandma. She didn't even look at it before handing it to Rita. "Read the purchaser's instructions." Rita's hands trembled slightly as she unfolded the document. Near the bottom, beneath Grandma's signature, one sentence had been typed in bold. "Recipient, Rita Akoro. Vehicle purchased as a personal gift. Ownership to remain exclusively with recipient." Rita looked up. "My name." The attorney nodded. "It has always been your name." He opened another folder. Mrs. Akoro specifically instructed the dealership that no changes to ownership were to be made without her written authorization. Grandma looked directly at Daniel. "Did I ever give that authorization?" Daniel didn't answer. The attorney continued. "I contacted the dealership before coming here." He removed another document. "This is the original delivery confirmation." Rita leaned closer. Her heart skipped. A signature appeared beside the acknowledgement of receipt. She frowned immediately. "That's not my signature." The attorney nodded calmly. "We compared it with your employment records after Mrs. Akoro called." He placed another sheet beside it. "The signatures don't match." Silence filled the room. Grace slowly sat down. Samuel stared at the floor. The attorney continued. The warranty registration was also amended several days after delivery. He produced another document. The dealership recorded a request to replace the original recipient information. Grandma's voice remained steady. "Who requested that change?" The attorney looked at Daniel. "The paperwork identifies Mr. Daniel Akoro." Daniel rubbed his forehead. "It wasn't like that." "No," Grandma asked quietly. The attorney reached into the final envelope. "There is one more item." He carefully unfolded a birthday card. The handwriting was unmistakably Grandma's. "Drive safely, my dear Rita. Every early morning bus ride you endured made me wish I could do something sooner. I hope this truck reminds you every day that someone believes in you. Love always, Grandma." Rita's eyes filled with tears. "I've never seen this." "You couldn't have," Grandma replied softly. "It was mailed with the dealership package." Everyone understood at once. It had never reached Rita. Daniel looked toward the window. Grace covered her face. Samuel finally spoke, his voice barely above a whisper. "I knew." Rita slowly turned toward him. He couldn't meet her eyes. "Dad told me," Samuel admitted, "that you wouldn't appreciate it." Nobody interrupted him. "He said you were happy taking the bus, that I needed it more because of my work." He swallowed hard. I wanted to believe him. Rita didn't answer. There was nothing left to say. Grandma looked toward her attorney. "Please begin restoring ownership immediately." The attorney nodded. "The original purchase agreement gives us strong grounds to reverse the registration." Daniel stepped forward at last. "Mom, we were only trying to keep peace in the family." Grace added quickly, "Samuel's commute was longer, we thought." Grandma raised one hand. Both of them fell silent. She looked at them with calm disappointment rather than anger. Then she spoke 4 words that ended every excuse before it could begin. "Save your explanations." She paused. "I'm not finished." The room remained completely still. No one tried to interrupt Grandma Evelyn again. She rested one hand on the stack of documents before looking first at Rita, then at the rest of the family. I bought that truck because I was worried about my granddaughter. Her voice was calm, but every word carried weight. Every time we spoke, Rita asked about my health before she asked about herself. She never complained. She never asked me for money. She never asked me to solve her problems. She turned toward Rita. But I knew she was leaving home before sunrise and standing at bus stops in the rain. I knew she was spending hours every week just getting to work. Rita lowered her eyes. I thought if I could remove even one burden from your life, I should. She took a slow breath. So I bought you that truck. Rita's voice cracked. I never knew. I know. Grandma reached across the table and gently squeezed her hand. And that's the part that hurts me most. She looked toward Daniel and Grace. I trusted you to help me surprise your daughter. Neither of them answered. I never imagined I would have to protect my own gift from my own children. The attorney quietly slid another document across the table. The original purchase agreement is valid. Because Mrs. Okoro never authorized the transfer, we can begin restoring ownership immediately. Daniel finally spoke. Mom, we made a mistake. Grandma looked at him steadily. A mistake is forgetting a birthday. Silence. A mistake is taking the wrong exit. Another pause. But lying to your mother for nearly a year. She shook her head slowly. While your daughter continued riding buses, every morning isn't a mistake. No one argued. There was nothing left to defend. Grace wiped away tears. We thought Samuel needed it more. Grandma answered without raising her voice. Then you should have bought Samuel a truck. Grace looked down. You don't steal one granddaughter's future to make another child comfortable. Samuel stepped forward. His hands were shaking as he placed the pickup keys on the table in front of Rita. I'm sorry. Rita looked at the keys, but didn't reach for them. I knew Grandma bought it for you. He swallowed. Dad kept saying you wouldn't care, that you were too independent, that I deserved it because I drove farther. He closed his eyes briefly. I wanted to believe that. Rita studied him for a long moment. I can't pretend that doesn't hurt. I know. But thank you for finally telling the truth. It wasn't forgiveness. Not yet. It was simply the first honest conversation they had shared in a very long time. Over the following weeks, the attorney completed the paperwork exactly as promised. The registration was corrected. The ownership was restored. The insurance was rewritten. When Rita finally walked into the licensing office to receive the new registration certificate, her own name appeared exactly where it should have been from the beginning. A few days later, Samuel quietly handed her the truck. No speeches. No excuses. Just the keys. Grandma insisted on riding with Rita the first time she drove it. As they pulled away from the house, Grandma smiled. So, Rita laughed through tears. I really do like my truck. Grandma laughed with her. I was hoping you would. The consequences for the rest of the family lasted much longer. Grandma changed the way she handled every important financial decision. Any future gifts would go directly to the intended recipient through her attorney. No one else would ever control them. She also updated her estate plan, removing Daniel and Grace from managing any family assets on her behalf. If I want to help someone, she said plainly, I won't ask anyone's permission. Word spread quietly through the extended family. Relatives who had once believed Rita was simply less successful than Samuel now understood the truth. The story wasn't that Rita had failed. The story was that she had kept moving forward despite being denied what was already hers. At work, the change was immediate. For the first time, Rita wasn't checking bus schedules before sunrise or worrying about missed connections after long shifts. She arrived on time. She left on time. The hours she had spent waiting at bus stops became hours she could spend resting, visiting Grandma, or simply enjoying her evenings. One Sunday afternoon, months later, the family gathered again at Grandma's house. The atmosphere was different. Quieter. More honest. No one mocked Rita. No one compared the children. Grandma looked across the table at her granddaughter with unmistakable pride. "You've always been stronger than you realized." Rita smiled. "I learned that from you." As she drove home that evening in the blue pickup Grandma had chosen with such care, Rita realized that the truck wasn't the greatest gift she'd been given. The greatest gift was discovering that even when people